Welcome to the Making of YOR, a podcast where we turn ideas into game mechanics for our upcoming tabletop RPG, YOR. If you'd like to stay up to date on the developments of YOR, head over to our Discord. Link is in the description. And we're back. We're going to talk about classes, tier 2 classes today, which I think we did last time.
Yeah,
but
we started on fighter, I think.
yeah, we're going to be on that for a while. Fighter, we did a
Barbarian,
lot of it. Yeah, off mic and Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wizard we'll be working on today on the mic. And we also did a couple other things while we were in between.
Yeah, we added a little bit to initiative on like what to do in case of a tie, like if your party's of the same size.
Yeah, and we worked out it's kind of its own special check.
Yeah.
And so when you have two parties same size, whoever the highest tier combatant is, that's going to set the tier of that finesse check that is contested between them. Yeah. That won't happen all the time. Often everyone will be the same tier to just be making a check of your tier. But I feel like that helps provide that sense that a higher tier character is just better.
Yeah, he's, quicker on the draw than people who haven't been at it as long.
Yeah, just like some nice general buffs. And then contested checks. We actually worked out how contested checks work.
Supposed to work.
Yeah. A little bit involved, I think, for me to explain right now. It's all written, but I would want to read the whole thing. But it's there. So that was another kind of essential mechanic that we had loosely roughed out, but we hadn't really
give us some more indication that what tier you are really matters.
Yeah. And we were able to think of some niche cases for how hero points and that work together so that we don't ever feel like, oh, here's an awkward scenario.
Oh, yeah. It's like, all right, if we both succeed, well, critical success is better, but a tier jump is better than a critical success. But I can spend a hero point to get up to your tier. And if I roll a critical success with that, then I can be your tier and then win with a critical success. So
yeah.
There's a lot of interaction here for what we think is a pretty simple rule set.
Yeah. It may be complex sometimes to us in development, but the end goal is that you can read it and be like, cool, that makes sense.
I know exactly how that works.
Yep.
It works the same way everywhere.
Yeah. We have tried to largely, whenever possible, reuse rule types.
Mm-hmm.
When we move from one circumstance to another, we want those rules to feel akin to some other set of rules. And rarely, but sometimes we have to make exceptions. Initiative was one of those that was like, it's different enough that it needs its own thing. But anyway, so on to Wizard. HP still seems fine.
Yeah, I don't think we need to change 4.
I like our archetypes.
Yep, agreed.
Necromancer, Elementalist, Magician. And I think we've talked about this. We have good ideas for how all 3 of those would develop.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's obviously a lot of wizard archetypes you could build. I think these 3 cover probably what would be the most popular.
I think so.
Themes of a wizard.
Yeah, you want to, be tricksy, throw fireballs, or raise the dead.
Yeah. So this should cover, at least for first wave of the game, what we want. Obviously, we're keeping mana as the name for the resource.
Yep.
And then where it's going to get different, and this may make it to where we only do part of wizard and then have to come back later
to it. Yeah, once spells are even more fleshed out.
Yeah, because we've been rethinking how spells will work on their lists. Like lists will be categorized.
Yeah, we need wizard spells, and
we'll
have a generalist list that anybody with spell casting can pick from, and then each class will have their own, and then each archetype may have a couple more.
Yeah, so we may have to, before we finish exactly how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be something like this. I don't know that we discussed. Archetype spells might work like subclass spells do in D&D.
Yeah.
Like you know
get them.
You picked this archetype, the archetype spells.
Yeah.
And then we'll have generalist and probably wizard spells. And wizards can pick a spell or 2 off of. So we might keep the 2 tier 2 spells. And you get to pick off the wizard and generalist list, and then you additionally learn your actual archetypes list. That might be, I think, a good way to handle that.
I think so.
Because I don't know that I want them to, if they take an archetype, I feel like they don't have to pick from spells.
This is just what archetypes do.
Yeah.
You pick this archetype, you picked it because it does this.
Yeah, they define you. Your archetypes are defining you, and you get to flavor that definition.
The necromancer does not play like the elementalist, does not play like the magician.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they're all wizards.
Yes, as it should be.
So it is written.
Yes. And I'm thinking because we have given already, which I want to keep, the very unique mana generation method for the necromancer.
Yes.
I'm kind of thinking that we'll either provide additional mana generation in each archetype, or we should come up with one. Maybe we should come up with one simple mana generator that's available to all three types. It's a regular feature. And then Elementalist and Magician may not get particularly special ways like the Necromancer does. But the Necromancer is also probably going to have the weakest upfront power.
Yeah, his spells aren't going to be as good.
Yeah. You're going to have, especially early, like you have to have bodies. Things have to have already died for you to be useful.
Yeah. His things are probably going to be expensive.
Yeah. Whereas the Elementalist is
fireball.
He's killing people.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah. So we should then, I think, spell shaping feels like something that's going to go away from the general list.
Agreed.
We might put something like that in the Elementalist directly.
Yeah.
Because the Necromancer, I don't even think is going to have any spells that you would shape necessarily.
I got Raise Dead and Death Ray.
Yeah, a single target and a multi-target.
Yeah.
So let's assume for now that spell shaping will be retained, but as a Elementalist feature, unless we come up with something better for the Elementalist to get now.
No.
In which case, spell shaping maybe is something that come on the line later.
Yeah.
Familiar, leave it exactly the way it is.
I think so. I like tier 0 creature.
Okay, I do too. And we want it to be a general thing that all wizards get.
Yep.
I like that too. Okay. So
what is a wizard without an assistant?
Yeah, for real. I think pretty much every time.
What is he going to carry his own books?
Yeah, familiars are so heavily used. I feel like it should just be a part of the kit.
Yep.
So tier 2 spells. I think we probably leave that and we just assume that they're going to get maybe 2 spells in archetype. So they're going to end up with 4 spells instead of 2.
Yeah.
But there's a solid chance that what that means is they're going to pick a couple of utility spells often. Now, maybe the Magician won't, because he might get cool utility in class and decide to do.
Yeah, I imagine that the Elementalist probably has more damage spells in his list. The Magician probably has more utility spells. And then the Necromancer probably has Raise Dead and Death Ray.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll get... Necromancers will just go from like raise temporary, raise more temporary, raise permanent, raise more permanent, and then does types of damage.
Yeah.
But Elementalist will definitely be the one with the most damage.
Absolutely.
Front-loaded damage.
As he should be.
Yes. So then if we assume that everything that we have here is staying the same, I think we come up with a
resource generator.
Another resource generator here. So they could get some type of like mana refund system. They could get something of like that they're kind of snowbally, in a power sense.
Yeah.
So that once they get enough mana to start casting spells, then maybe they get some mana back, like a percentage of the mana.
Okay.
So it allows you to cap and say, this spell costs 4 resource.
Yeah.
But you're going to get 2 refunded. And you might say, well, why not just make it 2? Well, because if it was 2, you would get to it way earlier.
Yeah.
This still forces you to get it later, but then maybe you're going to be able to cast more quicker. I don't know that that's the best way, but in theme, in my idea, the idea of wizards being kind of like snowbally is.
I like that. I don't know if that's the way I want to do it, but I don't know. What about like a counter spell mechanic?
Okay.
Suck the magic out of other people's spells.
Okay.
Maybe those are two different things, but.
Well, I don't dislike that. That is it's probably going to be it'll be pretty niche. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it also means that in a lot of combats, your additional resource generator you may not get to use.
Yeah. So maybe counterspell is just another ability they have. Maybe replace spell shaping with that.
Or maybe counterspell comes online at another level.
Oh, tier 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we want it now. But it might. Well, as a mechanic, if we make counterspell a mechanic that isn't just counterspell, like you have to either make a check or it's a little more conditional.
Yeah.
Because counterspell, of course, in the way that it works in like D&D, you have to make a check if the spell's above a certain level.
Yeah.
And if we just make it to where you always have to make a check.
Yeah.
And you have to make a rune lore check equal to the tier of the spell. And maybe there's some kind of conditions to that. That wouldn't be necessarily a bad mechanic.
Yeah.
As long as we make it, I think, something that you can't do every time. Because then if you get in spellcaster battle, I don't know, maybe not. It would make spellcaster battles pretty involved, a lot of rolling.
Yeah.
But we have made a lot of the games simple. That would be kind of interesting to say that spellcaster combat is a little slower because they're, it's like a Harry Potter thing where they're kind of like, I don't know,
maybe it's just their thing that costs resource other than spells. Maybe counterspell is just an ability they have.
Oh, okay. That you get.
It's just 2 resource.
Yeah. 2 resource. And if it's 2 resource, will we still make a check? Which would mean that you would automatically succeed on spells 2 tiers below you and automatically fail on spells 2 tiers above you.
I feel like that's right.
But then you make a check on any of the others.
Yeah, 2 resource, make a rune or check.
Yeah, equal to the tier of the spell.
Well, so that way, when you're tier 3, you can just shit on lower tier magic users.
Well, you can shit on lower tier magic because even if I guess this is how we discuss it. We've talked about this before. I don't remember exactly what we came to. Is the tier of a spell always equal to the caster?
Well, it was a tiered spell, but now we've changed how spells work, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That may be a thing we figure out when we make spells more.
Yeah. Figuring that out will affect how counterspell would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would mean weaker spells are... I don't hate that. It means that if you have 2 magic users...
I think equal to the caster is probably simpler.
It is simpler, but there's some interesting strategy that would come into play.
Yeah.
Knowing that all wizards have counterspell is that you might cast a tier 1 spell and they either have to burn 2 resource.
Yeah.
And even though they probably guaranteed counter it, they have to burn 2 resource to counter it.
Yeah.
Or they have to just eat the spell and know that it's a low tier spell and that maybe it won't kill them. There's some interesting gameplay that could occur there if we retain that the tier is attached to the spell and not the caster. It also would mean that we'd have a logical way that when you're casting spells out of a spell book, they are the tier of the spell. So if you're like casting a spell, then you're making checks for, and that spell is a tier above you, then you're still casting that
I like
spell.
that. I'm worried it will be just a little bit too complicated, but I think we should try it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It could be weird.
Like, we can try it. If we don't like it, we'll just make them the tier of the caster.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good idea. Okay, so in that case, 2 resource or 2 mana.
Yeah, 2 mana.
Counter spell. Okay. So just a mana generator. I think that's all we might need.
Because they can already do it by using a quick action cantrip.
Yes. Which is going to give them 1 resource.
Yeah.
And then Necromancer has a special way to generate a lot, which I think is appropriate, and it's appropriate that he be the only one that has something like that because path to power and all that shit.
Easy.
But they do need another way to generate resource.
I know. I'd almost think like a meditation thing, but that feels more appropriate on the immortal.
Yeah. What if they could? Well, this probably wouldn't work. I was gonna say, what if they could store resource somehow, like at the end of a combat? But I don't know that would work too well either. That might be too much. I think that's unnecessary. Refunds would be better than that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like a mana potion or something, but
if it's I think that mana potions should exist.
Yeah.
Or resource potion. I just don't know if it should be like solely limited to wizards as the only ones who can get it. Resource potions just feel like maybe a tier 3 potion. You can get a bunch of resource.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they just get an extra resource on cantrip use.
They could.
Like they're not limited to the quick action cantrip resource generator. If they want to really build up resource fast, they can serve it and use 2 cantrips.
So, yeah, I get where you're going with that. We have to figure out how we'd phrase that because you wouldn't generate use or generate resource whenever you cast a cantrip. We'd have to phrase that so that you're not generating 1 resource with your action and 2 with your quick action now.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to just generate 2 with the quick action either.
No, I think like you may also use your main action to cast a cantrip and generate resource, something like that. Or whenever you use a cantrip, cast a cantrip as an action, it gains you resource as if you had cast it as a quick action.
Okay, well, how about what? Well, and this may actually be more of a sorcerer thing. I think about it.
Yeah.
But what if? We talked about stances before, but then I'm also thinking of the way that size up works. What if wizards had either something akin to size up, but more magical, and it's like a detect magic type action, or if they had like spirit bomb, but spirit bomb almost feels a little more like
sorcery. Yeah, I feel like that's a blood sorcerer thing.
Yeah,
or
like
a royal
you can
sorcerer
gain.
Yeah. What if it's that feedback loop thing you were talking about? What if it's whenever you cast a spell as your action, you gain 1 resource?
Yeah, I think that's not bad.
That way you get it with a cantrip, but also with your regular spells.
Yeah, when you cast a spell, you get 1 resource.
Mana calls to mana, something like that.
Yeah, so that once you start casting spells,
you jump up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I like that, and that's better than a refund as more of just.
Yeah, so you could do it with a cantrip and not spend, but even when you cast a spell, you get 1 back.
Yeah. So whenever you cast a spell in combat, you gain 1 mana.
As an action. Because then it would give you 1 for your quick, or 2 for your quick action.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that there's any. Well, maybe there's a quick action spell.
No. Cantrips are tier 1 spells.
Oh, that's true. Whenever you use your action, that way cantrips would also generate.
Cantrips are tier 1 spells, so they would.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you'd get cantrips doing it, but then also regular spells would do it too.
Yeah. So if you don't have the resource to spend, you can just double up on cantrips and get a little faster.
Yeah. I like that. And it also means that if you decide to do something else with your quick action.
Yeah. You still can generate some resource.
Yeah. That feels pretty good.
Awesome.
Let's go back then to archetypes.
All right. Necromancer feels pretty good.
Yeah, full round action for the Necromancer feels good.
I think spell shaping could be good for Elementalist, provided we give him some spells to use that on.
Yeah, I think so. So I figure we'll give the, because I was figuring we would keep like the Ray spell. I figured the Ray spell might go into the generalist list, and then like maybe Fireball and Chain Lightning. Although really spell shaping then would just become, well, you can change Fireball to Chain Fireball and Chain Lightning to
Lightning Ball,
which I think that maybe we want to do that. But if we're already making them spells that are specifically going to the elementalist, part of the reason I think we made the spells that way was when we stopped, like, oh, you'll have build a bear spells.
We only have one damage spell, and then you can make it and prepare it. And
then we decided to switch to, okay, they work this way. And that makes spell shaping, I feel like, a little obsolete.
Yeah, I think it may be.
It becomes a little awkward because you're not preparing a certain spell of a certain shape anymore.
I think we have to come up with some more spells before we figure out what to give them in.
Yeah. I think, obviously, for spells, though, Elementalist is going to get Fireball.
Yep. And Chain Lightning.
And probably just Chain Lightning. And so that means that, Fireball and Chain Lightning. So he's going to, at tier 2, he'll still have like Cold and Acid and Cantrip. But I don't really want to give him 4 spells.
Yeah.
1 for each.
Maybe he can just change elemental types. That was the other thing we talked about giving wizards.
Yeah.
So he can change the elemental type of any of his damage spells. Like he can the cantrip.
Yeah. So he gets... yeah, that may make us rework the whole idea of Fireball and Chain Lightning. Because they're the only ones that are going to get it right now at tier 2.
Yeah.
But if we end up making it to where, I don't know, if we ended up making it to where, like, once you get to tier 3, of like certain classes get to tier 3 and then they could learn.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, actually, though, at tier 2, someone else will get Fireball. Like the Dragon Sorcerer will get Fireball.
Yeah.
His will just be Fireball, though.
Yeah, no switching or swapping out.
Yeah. And Fireball will be on, like, maybe spell books, single cast spells.
Yeah, scrolls, something like that.
Scrolls, and all of them will always work like Fireball works. And
but I think the Elementalist being able to change his damage type is probably.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's his feature.
Yep. And especially if we go through, like, acid spells are a line, cold spells are a cone.
Yeah. Will it be that you can change the damage type of any of your spells that deal an elemental damage?
Yeah.
So if you learn a spell that doesn't deal elemental damage, it just does that damage. Yeah.
You can change the elemental type of any of your spells with the element tag.
Yeah. Did we decide we were calling it cold or frost?
Cold, I think.
Okay. I might need to rewrite that at some point, but
yeah, I think that's
good enough for now.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's good enough for now. Magician.
I feel like. Maybe he just gets a lot of cool spells.
I think in theme.
Yeah.
However we end up making this mechanically work. In theme, I think the Magician should be hard to pin down.
Yeah. So I was thinking like a teleport and an illusory double.
Yeah. I think he should specifically get things that make him difficult to just eliminate.
Yeah.
So let's give him 2 spells, or because we're going to need to do 2 spells and a feature if we're going to keep in line with what we did for the Elementalist. And we have to come up with more spells in general. But let me look at the spells list, because obviously we're taking Fireball and Chain Lightning off of the general spell list. Maybe there's a spell we made here that would make sense for them. So we've got Darkness, Fog. We got Force Servant and Small Illusion.
I mean, I think all of those are fine for a general list.
For a general, I agree. Okay.
I was thinking like a 30 to 50 foot teleport.
Yeah. I agree that should definitely be one of them. And then
an illusion of themselves.
Well, it could be, it could be an illusion of themselves. Of course, so the illusion of themselves thing, ooh, okay, that's interesting. So we give them a teleport. Okay, so here's my thing on illusion of themselves.
Yeah.
Often, or at least half of the time that is really useful is not in combat. Like it can be useful in combat, but a lot of times something like that. And so part of me thinks that maybe we should give them as one of their free spells.
Yeah.
And it's not that it comes off the general list, but we give them as one of their free spells is Force Servant.
Oh.
But when a magician casts Force Servant, they can make it an illusionary double of themselves. Or would you like to avoid the possibility of a permanent illusionary double?
I think that's because I think mixing spells like that is a dangerous road to go down.
Yeah, the upgraded version kind of thing. Yeah, they do that with they do that in D&D, and it gets weird because it's pretty rare. Yeah. But on the occasions that you see it, like Rogue, Arcane Trickster,
they
Rogue.
get the invisible mage hand.
Yeah, which was kind of what I was thinking, but maybe actually that was a bad idea.
Yeah,
maybe their implementation is just not ideal.
What's the illusion spell do?
Illusion that fills a 5-foot cube, and you pretty much have like free ability to manipulate it.
Okay.
So unlike the cantrip, which is solid, create an illusion filling up 5-foot square, requires maintenance, must be within 30 feet. So one thing I had been thinking about was the idea that if you were going to take a killing blow, that you'd have like a poof away kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
So maybe that's what the teleport is instead of a spell.
Maybe instead of a spell, you have a reaction. Cost 1 resource or something, or 2 resource.
Yeah, probably cost 2 resource. As a reaction, bamf away.
Yeah. So, and it always costs 2 resource. So you're not, it's not a once per encounter or once per day. You just always have to have 2 resource, which makes that wizard not going to do as much damage as, what's his name?
Mm-hmm. He's got to keep a couple in the bank all the time.
But if he's got mana in the bank, he's really hard to get rid of.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. For 2 resource in response to an attack, you may teleport up to 30 feet away.
Yeah. In a cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
You know, a cloud of smoke that probably fills a little area there for 1 round.
I think just a visible cloud of smoke. Like, I think it's audible and visual that you do it.
But it doesn't inhibit the person
I don't think so.
Standing in it. In a puff.
Yeah. Like, if you do this, people can see and hear that you did it. And they'll look, but they won't see where you went.
Yeah.
Because that's
if you have 30 feet of, like, open ground, they're going to see where you went. Would this allow you to... Will it allow you to go through walls?
I think a space that you can see. So if you could see through a window, you could go in there.
Okay. Space you can see within 30 feet. I'm just going to name it Trick for now.
Yeah. Yeah, look over there. You just call it Poof.
Poof. Okay. Should it be limited to lethal damage or damage at all?
I think damage at all.
Okay.
There's not much difference.
It's still being limited by your resource anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still take the damage or do you not take the damage? I assume that would mean you would not.
Yeah, I think not take damage.
Yeah. I need to phrase this in a way that it doesn't make you immune to the damage.
Yeah.
It means that
you boofed away before
it hits you. But if someone was casting a ritual spell that was blowing up a town, well, 30 feet away is still here. Or, it's any other area of effect spell. If you didn't leave the full area of the effect, then you still get hit. I'll just put this causes target-based attacks to miss.
Yeah.
If you've left the area of the spell, then obviously the area of effect doesn't hit you.
Yeah.
And this is to being the target of an attack. So if you were adjacent to a fireball being hit at someone else, on the current writing, you wouldn't be able to poof away from that.
Yes.
You want to leave it that way?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because you have to be paying attention to the thing.
Yeah. So if you have been targeted, then you can poof away. Poof. Okay. Cool. I like that.
All right.
And Necromancer's already got a good feature. So we need to give 2 spells to the Magician and 2 spells to the Necromancer.
I like invisibility for the Magician.
Okay. Is this a in-combat invisibility?
Yes.
Like a resource-based? Okay. How much resource you think?
2 around.
So it's interesting. Okay, so attacking then wouldn't break it? Or would it just be like spend an amount, you become invisible until the start of your next turn? Or end of your next turn?
Yeah, I don't know. Because if it's 2 resource, they can keep it up indefinitely. So maybe 3 resource, and it doesn't.
Yeah, because if it was 2 and didn't break when you attack, you just cast 2 cantrips every round and stay invisible.
You cast invisibility and a cantrip, and you get 1 back from invisibility and 1 from the cantrip. Yeah. And then you'd spend those 2 the next round, and you get 1 back from invisibility and 1 from the cantrip you cast, and you'd be invisible.
Oh, if it lasted, combat. Yeah. Oh, so if it only lasted 4 a round.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if it only lasts 4 a round, then at the start of your turn, regardless of if you have enough resource to cast it again, you would lose it in that moment. So knowledge would you would be poofing in and out.
You'd flicker through the battlefield.
Yeah. Do we want it to look like that, or do we like the idea that invisibility, that's interesting?
I don't know, maybe 1 resource broken by attack or movement.
So dumb enemies, like dumb creatures, think you've disappeared. But intelligent creatures know that you're still standing right there.
Yeah.
It basically is just a people have a 50-50 chance to fail to hit you, but they know where you're standing, so they could try and hit you with something AoE.
Yeah, something like that. But
that does feel more, I'm trying to think of the usefulness of it.
Yeah.
But it feels more balanced because 3 resource feels like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not really helping you kill things to turn invisible for that much resource. But 1 and not being able to move or attack. Oh, what if you could move and not that attacking breaks the invisibility, but you can't attack while you're invisible? Like it's 1 resource, you can turn invisible like until the start of your next turn.
Cannot make attacks while invisible.
Yeah. So, but you would still turn invisible every turn.
Yeah.
And then you would attack at the start of your turn, turn invisible, and then attack again at the start of your next turn. That seems a little annoying.
Yeah.
If it was 2 resource, you would still be able to do that, but you'd never be gaining resource.
Yeah.
You would always be like statically just doing that.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have any.
You'd be doing 1 cantrip a turn, run around invisible, but you'd stay pretty much at 0 resource the whole time.
Yeah. Combats may not last long enough for that to matter.
Yeah. It doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
Maybe they should get a mind affecting spell.
Yeah.
That is not just like an illusion, like we talked about, like small illusion.
Yeah.
But maybe they have like specifically you plague a particular enemy with illusion. So maybe we give them some type of
maybe like a flashbang.
Yeah, or it could be that. It's something that maybe is something that's CC and is targeted.
Yeah.
Or it is an aggressive spell.
Yeah, it's like target and all adjacent are blind and deafened.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. So flashbang, how much is, because I think we need to base that resource based on how much we end up making fireball.
Yeah.
Because it's a CC version of fireball instead of a damage version. So it should cost less.
Well, I don't know that if it's deaf and blind, I don't know that it's any worse than fireball.
That's true. It's pretty bad.
Because like fireball's good if you're going to kill a bunch of small enemies with it, but if you're fighting something big, this spell's better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So maybe it's just a single target, 2. Or no, I like target and all adjacent.
Target and all adjacent 3.
I think they both just cost 2.
2 for fireball and
2 for flashbang.
Okay, we could start at 2. In my head, I was thinking 3, but
yeah, we can do 3.
Because then I was thinking with the additional resource generator, you're still casting it on your second turn.
Yeah,
because you'll action cantrip, quick action cantrip, then quick action cantrip on your next turn, then cast that spell, which still lets you cast on turn 2, but it doesn't let you cast on turn 2
unless.
Well, and have, because like if it were 2, then you would be fireballing every turn.
Yeah.
Is what you would do. Your first turn, you wouldn't cast fireball, but then you would fireball on every single turn.
But then you'd be every other turn.
Or every single turn at 2.
Yeah.
Because you get the 1
3
refunded.
It'd be every other turn.
Yeah, with 3, it'd be every other turn, which I think is a little better.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, anything that is a 2 resource, especially with all the additional ways we're creating, and for him, a really reliable way.
Yeah.
2 resource stuff probably shouldn't be super influential, or like, it should be like a side grade to just casting a cantrip. It's cool utility, but it's, not like an improved damage.
Yeah. Like Death Ray for the Necromancer probably costs 2.
Just so he would Death Ray every turn.
Yeah, basically.
Which would be like, well, he could get Death Ray and it costs 2, and then maybe the Ray attack, it costs 3 in the Generalist spell.
Yeah.
And so he has a thing that he would be rotating between that.
Yeah, damage spells are probably 3 except for Death Ray, and then his other one is like all his mana to raise the dead on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So he's got a good low-cost spell and a very high-cost game changer. So like if they have 6 mana max, his Raise Dead spell costs 6 mana, and it raises all the dead creatures on the battlefield to serve him until the end of combat or something.
Yeah. Well, we might do it as that could be a spell that would grow even if we make it related, like correlated to your tier.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those that's like, it's raise a number of creatures equal to like twice your tier. So it's like 4, 6, 8. Or how many it raises for the same cost.
Yeah.
But 4, 6, 8. And then we make that way, because if it's all, in some conditional large battles, I want him to be able to raise armies, but that should probably be ritual stuff to raise huge numbers.
Yeah, we'll come. Yeah, something like that.
And 4 allies is still a lot.
Yeah.
At tier 2. Should they be blinded and deafened until the start of your next turn? Or until because you wouldn't want to be until or is it, if it's till the start of their turn, you would be using it. So if you went first on your team's side, then your allies would all gain the benefit of them being blinded and deafened.
Yes.
And then if it was at the start of their turn would come back and they'd be able to act again.
Yeah, I think it's, if there's no save, it's until the end of your turn.
I suspect there'll be a save. So maybe until the
end of the start of your next turn.
The start of your next turn. So they'll be blinded and deafened for a whole turn.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that, and there should be a save.
Body save.
Yeah. I like that we don't have to come up with save DCs.
Yep.
We have a very simple
body save
algorithm.
Yeah, how good are you at it? I don't know. You tell me. You got the number, I got the tier. Tying the rolling conditions to tier, not the number, is so nice.
Yeah. I'm going to put SA on these for special ability, to just so we remember that these aren't spells.
Yeah.
These are unique to.
Yeah.
Like the Magician's Poof is not going to be available to anyone else. Necromancer's full round action thing, not available
to anyone else.
Yeah. All right. So we got Flashbang.
Do you remember Benign Transposition from 3.5?
No.
You could swap places with an ally.
Okay. Yeah. I do remember that spell. Or was that a special ability?
No, it was a spell.
The spell. So this one you'd be able to do. So you'd have control over this movement, and then Poof would be Well, you have control, but it's upon taking damage.
It's a reaction.
Yeah, it's a reaction.
But that'd give him a bunch of mobility.
Yeah. I like that. That's fine.
Especially with a familiar.
So you have an offensive, a non-damage based offensive, two movement things.
Which feels right for a magician.
Yeah, which feels right. And then, of course, if you wanted additional targeted damage, you could take the ray spell.
Yeah, you could take laser beam or...
Yeah, laser beam. Okay. I'll just put swap places down.
Yeah.
We can even come up with the rules later.
Switch places with any ally you can see or something.
Willing ally.
Yeah, willing combatant. Willing ally, yeah.
Well, I guess I'll put willing creature.
Yeah. 3 resource, 3 mana.
3.
All right.
I think. It's not doing damage, and you'd be giving up a flashbang to
and
do it.
They have to be willing, so.
They have to be willing, and you're giving up a flashbang to do it. So.
Yeah.
And then Necromancer is going to get Raise Dead spell.
Yep.
Until end of combat.
Raise a number of undeads.
Equal to twice your tier.
Equal to twice your tier.
4 at tier 2.
Yeah. Tier 1 skeletons, tier 1 zombies.
Yeah. Tier 1 zombies, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's grotesque. And they're tier 1 skeletons that rip out of their bodies.
Yeah, it's
because Animate Dead is a zombie. The generalist spell.
Yeah, I'd say raise a number of raise a number of skeleton or zombies equal to twice your tier 1 skeleton or zombie.
Yeah. And then it'll just keep growing. They'll probably always stay tier 1, you think?
Yeah, for this, you get more of them.
Yeah, you're getting more of them as you level. Plus he'll have other ways to raise higher tier things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing it in combat, they're just not going to be very good creatures.
Yeah. I'm going to put it as 5 mana for now. Or do you think it should be 6?
Yeah, I think 5 is fine.
Well, actually, it could be 6. Yeah. Because we're giving him a special action
thing to fill it up.
All right. Which also gives us a little more freedom too, because I think it's going to be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Even at tier 2, tier 1 creatures in combat are still doing a d6 every turn.
Yep.
They're meat.
Meat for the maw.
Yeah. Will this be... We talked about it originally. This would be dependent on there being enemies that fell in combat.
Yes.
Currently available. We still want it that way. Corpses need to be available.
Yep. I guess you could haul around your own corpses, but you wouldn't be able to fill up your mana off of them. You have to have killed a guy recently.
Yeah. We clarified, I think.
Tier 1 creature.
Yeah. Fill your mana pool with the soul of a foe who has fallen in combat. And this is probably minimum tier 1. We'd also talked about you gaining a number that would be somehow correlated to the tier of the creature. But I don't know that we want to do that for now. It may become more relevant once you get to tier 4. If this feature lets you keep tier 1 prisoners because you're strong enough to do it and fill your mana pool to 10 at the start of combat. Yeah, but I don't know.
We'll worry about that when we get there. For tier 1, I think what we got is fine.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good for today. Wizards looking pretty good. We'll spend some time updating the spell list so they have more options. And then we'll be able to probably move on to Sorcerer next time.
Sounds good to me. Catch y'all on the flip side.